Hey cats, it's EDDBUD, your midsole man here. Could this be the VAPORFLY 4? I recently set eyes upon a picture that really interested me. Could it be? I mean, we got a VAPORFLY 3 midsole there, certainly, though this time an ATOMKNIT upper. Let's take a closer look. Thanks for joining me on the channel, people. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like, it really helps out. Let's get into it. So, could this be a VAPORFLY 4? It certainly seems to have the VAPORFLY 3 midsole unit there, but it's got a drastically different upper, closer, I suppose, to some of the stuff that we've seen on Nike's spikes recently. You know, I love to speculate on pictures that appear on the internet. This one certainly seems to be real, no AI generation stuff. I guess the shoes could be fake, but I don't see why somebody would go to this much trouble to produce a shoe that hasn't been made yet, as it were. You can't really fake something that hasn't actually existed yet. I mean, if you're going to produce fake shoes, they've got to be shoes that people want and they desire, and this isn't a thing yet, right? So this does seem to be a different version of the VAPORFLY 3 midsole, or whatever you want to call it, the VAPORFLY Next Percent 3. I don't know, they changed the names on these things. That shape is there, the profile is there, appears spot on. These shoes, though, are sat atop some black Nike VAPORFLY boxes. We've seen those VAPORFLY Next Percent boxes before with the digits on the side. The upper, though, is very different to what we've got on the current VAPORFLY 3. I don't like the current upper. It's just far too roomy in the toe box, and by roomy, I mean you could fit a family of 4 in there. The shoes clearly state ATOMKNIT on the sides there, which is an upper that we've seen on several other Nike running shoes in the past few years. This one in particular seems to be very similar to the Air Zoom Victory spikes. The eyelets are almost the same here, as is the mesh structure. It's very, very close, though it isn't possible from this picture to determine if there is a hole cut out in the heel section as per the spikes. It could simply have been like a upper switch. They've just literally taken that upper and placed it on top of the VAPORFLY 3 midsole. We got the classic perforated laces there that tie in with all the other versions of the VAPORFLY. There's too many pairs here for it to just be a one-off custom. I can only assume perhaps Nike have manufactured a load of these to give to some athletes, or they did perhaps. Could this have even been like a prototype version of the VAPORFLY? These boxes, though, are certainly ones that we've seen being used and given out to athletes in the past. So I reckon this could be one of two different things. Either Nike are already tinkering with the upper materials that they utilize on the VAPORFLY. Some people, it works great and they really like that new upper. I am in the other camp where it just doesn't really work that well for me. Could this even be a VAPORFLY 4? We know that Nike have kind of got these designs in the past and just done a very careful iteration, a switch up of the upper, kept the midsole unit exactly the same, outsole exactly the same, just changed what's on top of it. I would find that a little bit odd that there's already a new version of the shoe after we've had the VAPORFLY 3 only a few months back, though again it would sit nicely into that sort of 2 version iteration cycle that Nike always go through with these shoes. They always stick with the midsole for at least 2 versions of the shoe before they switch it up for the next one. Could this be some sort of Nike by You creation, or at least announcement that they're going to do that? Nike by You is where you can sort of select and customize different options for your shoe. You know, you pay another 35 quid or something and you get a by You version, which gives you loads of garish colors normally and some really weird like logos and graphics and stuff you can put onto the side of the shoe. They did that back in the day with the VAPORFLY Next Percent and the Next Percent 2. We've yet to see that for the VAPORFLY 3 though. Of course it will come at a significant price increase over the standard 235. That's Earth credits, people. Now there's only 10 pairs here in the picture, complete with the perforated laces with some orange hits at the end of those laces. That ATOMKNIT logo is also in that sort of orangey sort of yellow colour. Perhaps these have been produced for a very specific purpose. We know we've got the Olympics next year in Paris. Maybe Nike have produced these to give to some athletes or something. They did that with the original version of the ALPHAFLY Next Percent at the US Marathon Trials. Gave pairs out to everybody, and then of course we all know what happened after that. The pandemic hit. The ALPHAFLY, I think, always got a bit of a raw deal around that time. It never got to really show what it was capable of. Nike have formed for doing such stunts, getting these shoes into the hands and onto the feet of athletes. They've got that financial clout. And of course that makes us mere mortals want the shoes even more. Do they produce that much of a difference? I know that shoe, when I got hold of it, did produce a really big difference. Feels great now, actually. It's been sat in a box for a while. It doesn't look great, but it feels great underfoot. I do think, though, that Nike are now looking to trim off any weight possible from their sort of flagship models. Any advantage that they can get in that sort of oversaturated super shoe market is good. There's numerous other models which are there or thereabouts in terms of the ride, comfort and propulsion now. I mean, all the models that use a PEBA foam really do save the legs, it has to be said. Training and racing, it does give you a big advantage. So Nike haven't really got much of a major advantage anymore, in my book at least, other than being able to get these shoes into the hands of some of those top athletes. They've always had that financial clout, that hasn't changed, but that is one of the key sort of boosts, I suppose, that they have. Now, I have to say I really love this colorway option. It is beautiful. That red ATOMKNIT on top of the white midsole material with a big black swoosh spanning the length of the shoe through to the toe box is absolute fire. It's amazing, and I really do hope that we get some sort of future retail release of this specific shoe. I think that this would normalize the fit somewhat of the VAPORFLY 3 midsole, perhaps provide a lighter version of what is already a very nimble shoe from Nike. That has got some improved durability in the midsole and outsole. Certainly that is the big plus for the VAPORFLY 3 for me. Maybe they are fakes, but I don't think that they are. This design does remind me of the VAPORFLY Elite model that we saw Kipchoge utilizing some years ago. The same black and red upper with that contrast against the midsole material. It's striking, and I always thought it was a surefire method of selling shoes. Why on earth they didn't have a bigger release for that one, or at least like a historic retro release or something? That would clear up. People love the look of that shoe. I know we got the red and ice blue. Yes, it's blue if you look closely. VAPORFLY 4% Flyknit. That's about as close as we got to this other VAPORFLY Elite model, along with that London Marathon version that they released that was predominantly red, black, with hints of blue added into the insole and the forefoot area of the midsole. There's certainly some elements of the STREAKFLY here, the ALPHAFLY and that Zoom Victory in the upper, all of which I found to be reasonably containing, to be honest with you. Perhaps Nike are trying to draw a line between the Flyknit, the Vaporweave and that ATOMKNIT now. Trying to segment the daily shoes up away from the flagship racing models. So what's your take on this, people? Is it just some custom ones? Are they fakes, in fact? Are Nike really experimenting already with the upper materials on top of that VAPORFLY 3 midsole? Will we see a retail release of this? If we do, I will get a pair. They are beautiful. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. Okay, that's a quick musical interlude for you. I think with the new release of some of Neil Young's archive albums, I've been dipping back into some of his older tracks and his older releases. It always happens that way. I've gone right back to 1982 this time with his album Trans. This one's very heavily influenced by like drum machines and synthesizers, integrating them into some of his tracks. Really, really odd, but an interesting listen nonetheless. Key standout tracks here are We Are in Control, Sample and Hold, and Transformer Man. I think Transformer Man's probably my favourite there. Aside from Sample and Hold, Transformer Man I think is all about trying to communicate with his son using various different methods. I do remember reading an interview with Neil Young. He was talking about how he'd made some sort of control device for his son who suffered with some quite considerable disabilities, some physical impairments, and he was using the train device to, you know, help his son use the trains and make them go around the track. And the whole song, Transformer Man, is about trying to sort of communicate with him and get this sort of rapport with his son going. It's a really heartfelt tune, sort of disguised by all these sort of drum machines and odd sounds. Sample and Hold is fantastic as well. You need to go and check out the version of Neil Young performing that in Germany. I think it was around about the same period. It really comes into its own live, actually. It just sounds way better. I think he's got Nils Lofgren playing with him on that concert too. You'll be able to find it on YouTube. Some fantastic music from that period. Neil Young really into it and having some trouble with his tie getting caught up in his guitar strings. Quite humorous. Go and check it out, guys. Trans from Neil Young. Thanks for tuning in, people. I hope you enjoyed my babbling today. Just really interested by that picture. I really want that shoe. It must come out, surely. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you